True flexibility training is kind of like strength training. I wouldn't have someone who's never lifted before come in and do max squats. And in the same way, I wouldn't have someone who's never done flexibility training before come in and do loaded, hyper-specific flexibility work. You've got to build a strong base of moving through big ranges of motion first. And what you'll find is if you do this, your body will be more receptive to the more intense stuff once you're ready. So if that's you, do this routine every day for 30 days and watch your mobility change drastically. And then once you're ready for the more intense stuff, check out our Master Mobility program. Okay, let's get to the routine. All you'll need is either a broomstick or a band and some props like yoga blocks. Let's hit it. We're gonna get started with the straddle inchworm for 90 seconds. We'll start in a wide stance that's slightly uncomfortable. Use yoga blocks if you need to. We'll roll down into a forward fold and then walk out into a plank. Then drop the hips and look up to the sky, coming into this back bend. Then we'll press back out and walk back up into a standing position. And if it feels okay on the back, you can drive the hips forward and look up at the sky for some extra back bending. And we'll repeat this at your own pace. Remember, the goal is to move through big ranges of motion that feel slightly uncomfortable. And over time, as you start to loosen up, you may feel that you can widen your feet more or ditch those yoga blocks. Now, this is one of my favorite movements to do every day because it takes the hamstrings, the groins, the hip flexors, the spine, even the wrists through huge ranges of motion. But with these huge ranges of motion, your body can sometimes tighten up and you'll feel it in your breath. So make sure that every position you go into, you can breathe fully into your belly. Keep a relaxed breath. Now, to get more out of this, on the way down, really push your hips backwards and try to drop the chest as low as you can. And you can add a yogi style push-up, keeping the chest low on the way in and the way out of that arching position on the ground. Okay, we're coming up on the end of 90 seconds, so finish up your last rep. Next up, we've got the world's greatest stretch. We're gonna go into a deep lunge position. Now, this might feel hard for a lot of people, so we're gonna use a yoga block or something to put the hand on to get it up off the ground. Then we'll drive the chest down towards the shin in front of you. Then we'll reach up at the sky, trying to twist the spine and the hips. And finally, we're gonna move away from that front hip towards that front hand. And then we'll repeat the process. And what you'll likely find is this circular motion moving down and then up and away will really help you get deeper into each one of these positions on each successive rep. One cue that can really help to get you deeper is to think about driving the hips forward and down. And for a little extra intensity, you can lift the back knee off the ground. This will put a lot of load into the hip flexor, getting it to stretch and open even more. Okay, we're coming up on 60 seconds, so go ahead and finish up your last rep and then take a little break before we switch sides. Okay, let's get ready for this other side by taking a big lunge step, and let's get started for 60 seconds. And remember, we're starting with moving the chest towards the front shin, then reaching up to the sky, and finally reaching the chest towards that opposite hand. And repeat. Now remember, yours is likely not gonna look like mine. That isn't the goal. Everyone's anatomy is different, so even if you had the same flexibility level as me, it would still likely look different. The goal is to get accustomed to moving through big ranges of motion, feeling these uncomfortable feelings of stretching and getting used to that. A big part of stretching is actually learning to tolerate these uncomfortable stretching sensations or even potentially beginning to like them. Okay, we're coming up to the end of 60 seconds, so finish up your last round here and then take a break. Next up, we have the squat, step through to crab. We'll be doing this for 90 seconds. We'll start in your best squat, whatever that means for you. Then we place the hands on the ground, coming into a tabletop position. Then we'll pick up one hand and bring the other foot through to where that hand is so that your chest faces upward. Then we'll lift the hips into a crab position and come back out the way we came, into a squat. And if you're feeling like, yo, Trevor, I can't do this, I can't get my leg through, no worries. Just use some yoga blocks in the hands. Again, that'll give you enough clearance to actually bring that leg through seamlessly. And each time you come back to the squat, see if you can get a little deeper. See if you can get your heels closer to the ground or on the ground. And then see if you can get your knees wider and your hips lower to the ground, giving you a good groin stretch. There's something about these low to the ground movements that allow people to relax their hips and ankles enough to get really deep into the squat, which is one of these fundamental positions that seems to be so important. And when you're in this crab position, see if you can lift your hips a little higher each time and lay the head back like you're laying your head in your pillow. This will give you such a good shoulder and bicep stretch that gets so tight from sitting at desks. And one thing I love about this movement is it really feels like a break dancer-like movement. You can speed it up and kind of find a float in there if you're feeling a little froggy to jump into it. And remember, we're just here trying to loosen up, so have a little fun with it. Okay, we're done with that. For the next one, we're gonna need a dowel like a broomstick or a band. We're doing a split squat where we're gonna also have the hands overhead in a open position to stretch the pecs and spine. We'll take a big step forward and then we're gonna drive the hips forward and down. We're gonna switch sides each time on this one, each time trying to drive the hips a little lower and deeper. What we're looking for with this one is getting a really big stretch in the hip flexor of the back leg while getting a squat-like position in the front leg. Now, if this one feels too challenging, no worries. You're just gonna find something to step up onto, like a stair or even your couch will do. And the arms overhead might get tired, so take breaks from it, or you can just do this without the band or dowel altogether. But I really like the overhead position because it opens up the upper back and the pecs, and it'll even give you a deeper hip flexor stretch. Now, this is one I always catch people holding their breath with. Make sure that you're taking big breaths into your rib cage, down into the belly, fill up the rib cage. Feel how the inhale, when you're in that stretch position, it actually makes the stretch even deeper. And I'd also recommend playing with some twisting or side bending as you're in that stretched position. You may find some really nice extra stretching for the torso and rib cage. Okay, we're just about done, so finish up your last rep here, and then we're gonna move on to the scorpion, which is one of my favorites because we just get to lay on the ground. So we're gonna lay belly down with the arms out to the side. And from that belly down position, we're just gonna lift one leg and reach it up and across as far as you can. This will give you a nice stretch for the torso, and on the side that you're actually moving towards, that shoulder is really exposed and it'll give you a nice pec stretch. But really what the magic here is a lot of people get low back stiffness and tightness, and a lot of it comes from just underusing the erectors and all of the muscles on the back side of the body, even the glutes that lift that leg up and back. And this can even help get your SI joints moving, where your spine meets your hips. There's actually joints, and these can start to move and open up in ways that they might not if you're sitting a lot, especially. Okay, we're coming up on the end, so finish up your last rep, and now we are done with the routine. Remember to take a moment to move your body around and see how good and loose it feels. And thanks for joining. Do this routine every day, 1 round minimum. And every once in a while, when you have a little extra time and energy, do 2 or even 3 rounds. Stay loose, have fun, and we'll see you in the next one.